In this video, we're going to be discussing how to graph inequalities on a number line. So to start, let's review what are inequalities. So in math, we have 4 different inequality symbols. So the first one we have is called a less than. And what it's used to represent is an example where I would say 3 is less than 4. We also have a greater than symbol, so it is the reverse of greater than. And it's used to represent situations like 5 is greater than 0. So we have less than, greater than. We have this thing with the line underneath it. This is called less than or equal to. And what this does is it represents situations like 5 is less than or equal to 5. Now, it'd be kind of weird to say that 5 is less than 5, but if we put the equal to there, it's okay. And the last one we have is greater than or equal to. Greater than or equal to. And this does the same thing. It's used to represent situations when one number is bigger than another or when one is small or is equal to. So for example, I could say 6 is greater than or equal to 4. I could say 6 is greater than or equal to 6. Now what we're going to do is we're going to represent these inequalities on a number line. So here I have an inequality. I have x is less than 5, and I'm going to show this on a number line. So to start, let's consider a little bit when I'm looking at x is less than 5. I'm looking for numbers smaller than 5. So the first thing I think of is 4. 4 works. 3 is also less than 5. I know 2, 1, 0, -1, so on and so on and so on. So I'm starting to see a pattern where all of these numbers, and I can keep going and going and going, all of these numbers are less than 5. But then I come to 5 itself. Is it possible for me to say that 5 is less than 5? Well, no, that's not a true statement. That just sounds kind of weird. So when we look at 5 itself, we put an open circle at 5 to show that it doesn't work as a solution. However, every number up to 5 works. So I could use, for example, 4.5. I know that 4.5 is less than 5. That works. I could use a 4.9 because I know that 4.9 is also less than 5. So the open circle tells us that this number, in this case 5, is not a solution to this inequality, but every number up to it is an inequality, or is a solution. Let's take a look at 2 more examples. So here I've got x is less than or equal to 13, so I'm going to do a little labeling on my number line. So typically when you're making your own number line, I suggest starting with the number in question in the middle, and then branching out a little bit. So I did 13, 14, 15, 16, and 12, 11, 10 on the other side. So I'm looking for numbers that are smaller than 13. X is less than or equal to 13. So the first number I think of is 12. I know that's less than 13. I know 11's less than 13. I know 10's less than 13. Now let's consider 13 for a second. Can I say that 13 is less than or equal to 13? Well, yes, I can. That is a true statement because of that equal to. So I put a closed dot on the 13, and then I take my arrow to the left. All of these numbers here on the left are showing the numbers that are less than or equal to 13. So let's look at one more. I've got x is greater than or equal to -2. So again, I'm going to start by putting the number in question in the middle. Now be careful when you're numbering negatives because negatives tend to flip. So the more negative it is, the farther it is on the left. It's the opposite of how we would number positives. So in this case, I'm looking for numbers bigger than -2. So instantly I'm thinking -1, 0, 1. And so at -2, I know that -2 isn't a solution. So I put an open circle at -2. And then I'm going to draw an arrow to the right because I know all of these numbers are bigger than -2. So let's kind of summarize how we graph inequalities, graph inequality. So the first thing we need to do is decide if we have an open or closed circle. So the open or closed circle, what I mean is I'm talking about this right here. So there's a little rule of thumb. So the little rule of thumb is that less than or equal to and greater than or equal to are closed. And just a plain less than and a plain greater than are open. Now these are closed because that number is a solution. So when I'm looking at x is less than or equal to 13, I know that 13 is a solution to that inequality, so I make it closed. And up here, when I'm looking at x is greater than -2, I know that is open because I can't say -2 is greater than -2. That just sounds kind of weird. Now step 2, after we have decided open or closed, is we decide the direction of our arrow. So we'll just put direction of arrow. And so when we're deciding the direction of our arrow, you need to ask yourself, is x bigger or smaller than the number? You ask yourself, is x bigger or smaller than the number? So if x is bigger, we know we're going to go to the right. So in this case up here, we're showing that x is bigger than -2. So that means go to the right on the number line. And if x is smaller, like in the case of this top problem, that means go to the left. We're showing on the number smaller than 13. So now I'm going to give you a chance to try it out on your own. So if you're watching this on YouTube, take a second and pause. But if you're one of my students, this should pause automatically. What I want you to do is choose which of these 4 graphs, A, B, C, or D, represents the inequality up here. -4 is greater than x. So take a second and answer, and I'll tell you the solution in just a moment. So hopefully, if you're looking at this, the correct answer here is C. So I know by looking at this, it's going to be an open circle because there is no equal to. And in this case, x is smaller than -4 because if you think back to when you first learned about inequalities, the mouth always opens to what's bigger. So in this case, x is smaller, meaning my arrow should be going to the left. All my numbers are smaller than -4. So if you got answer C, good work. But here's another one. So I want you to do the same thing, is choose the inequality, or choose the graph that matches the inequality, x is greater than or equal to 11. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and pause. If not, if you're one of my students, it'll pause automatically. So the correct solution to this is B. So I'm looking at my inequality, I see that it has an equal to, so I know automatically it's not C or D because both of those are open circles. And then when I'm looking at x, I know that x is bigger than 11 because I'm saying x is greater than, so that means my arrow needs to go to the right over here. It needs to go in this direction, showing all the numbers are bigger than 11. So that is a brief tutorial on how to graph inequalities.